All right. Hey guys, I'm here with Mish from Mishfit. How are you going there, Mish?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks, Jono. Great to be here.
Awesome. Thank you for coming along. I'm super excited because Mish is one of the world's experts in anything to do with women's health. We've had a bit of a chat earlier. We're pretty much going to target today's presentation to the pregnancy side of things, but we're also planning to do some follow-ups as well on different areas of women's health. So what I think would be cool to start with, Mish, I know you're an expert and I know everything you've done, but maybe some of the people watching this haven't. If you could just give us a minute or two breakdown of who you are.
Sure. Well, thank you. I suppose the most important thing to start with is I've got a degree in education. So I was a teacher. So I'm particularly passionate about, obviously, my second career, which is in the fitness industry. But I really love teaching and making sure that trainers have got the best education information out there so they can be the best trainers. So in my fitness career, I have a business called Mishfit, but really, really exciting. In the last 3 months, I have joined Curbs, wearing my Curbs t-shirt, as the business development manager for Australia and New Zealand. And I'm super excited about this role. I get to create women's health certification here and also help the clubs be the best they can be as well. So my two loves are business and women's health, and I've got a job now that caters to them both, and I'm loving it.
Yeah, and that's a huge platform as well, like Curbs. That's
Yeah.
pretty synonymous with women's health. You don't get much bigger than that.
It's great. It's really, really exciting. And the club owners are women who are passionate about women's health. So I'm just loving it. And same with my team and that I work with in the office. So I am literally a pig in mud.
Awesome. All right, let's get into it, Mish. So let's start with pregnancy in general. I'm going to sort of I'll ask some questions that are going to be pretty open based because
Sure.
you don't know who's sort of watching or whatnot. Let's just start with, should pregnant women exercise?
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of research that about the benefits of exercise, but just a few. We want women to be labour ready. I mean, they don't call it labour because you have a holiday when you having strength during birth process is really, really important. And also it really helps women to deal with the changing shape of their body. Which can sometimes feel like it's a little bit out of control. So that regular exercise is not only good well-being for the baby and the mum, but also for mental health as well. So it's got lots and lots of benefits.
That's it. So all round, like exercise is good in general, but even when we talk about it from a pregnancy side of things, it's got all sorts of benefits while you're pregnant. And then I love that too. How do you labour fit? What do you call it? Labour fit?
Being labour fit, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's almost like you're training for something,
Exactly. Absolutely.
And an important life event, it's more important than training for a marathon, training for giving birth is a pretty important part.
It is. And also to have that strength postnatally, because you have to do a lot of lifting. And you're going to be holding a baby, you're going to be, carrying a pram filled with stuff. And yeah, so it can be a very physical job. Yeah. So having that strength to call on is going to be really, really important. In fact, pregnancy often motivates women to get fit when they might not have had that motivation before. So we really have to be careful with the starting point of our clients and asking them what their motivation is. So, and I know you're going to be asking me some really quite specific questions, but it is really, really important to remember the starting place of that woman. And her motivation might be to get super fit for labour, but we would build up to that strength just like you would for any other event that you would train a client for.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's go the other side. So with exercise, there's always risks, no matter who you are, right? There's going to be risks involved in exercise. And obviously when you're pregnant, there may be some extra risks in there as well. What are some things we can do as trainers to make sure that we minimize those risks? Even before we get started training that person, what are some of the things we can do to make sure that, the risk is as low as possible when this person is going to start exercising with us?
That's such a great question, Jono. And I think the most important thing that we have to understand is legally, if we're going to train pregnant women, they have to have the okay from the doctor. So, or from their health professional that's overseeing their pregnancy. And then we have to have qualifications that say, and our general standard certificate 3 and 4, I don't know last time you looked at it, but really it has about a paragraph about training pregnant women. It's really not enough. You need to have that qualification. I think being protected as a fitness professional is really, really important. And also we want to protect women. So women, when they first find out they're pregnant, they're often really, really cautious too. So, you have to understand that this is, especially for first pregnancies, that there's a lot of anxiety about losing, the baby in those early stages as well. So, you won't give your client confidence if you have no prior, knowledge that has been recognised by an external source. So I'm saying about a course that has professional development points that has been audited, independently audited. So I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, spot on. So you go.
So that's the kind of general risks. And I think then from there, if we have a little talk about different trimesters. So the first trimester, your client might be feeling, nauseous, lethargic, and it's really, really important that whatever the situation is, that at the beginning of every session you ask your client, how are they feeling and has anything changed? Because there's radical changes that happen in those 9-10 months. But certainly during that first trimester, is nauseous, they're tired. And this is because their body is creating a human being, so it's taking a lot of energy. So, and if that client has been a person who's trained really hard, it might be the time where you as a trainer encourage them to rest and listen to their body. Training effectively is not all about the strength training or it's also about the recovery. So we have to be aware of that. So just with, there is during pregnancy, there is a hormone called relaxin that comes in, and what that does is it relaxes the joints and prepares the body for birth. Now, with relaxin, you would think that it would kind of build up and you get a big burst before you give birth, but it's not really how it works. The body does give these bursts of relaxin around 8 to 12 weeks, and then around about the 20-week mark, and then about 36 weeks. So you get these really big bursts of relaxin. Now, for some women, they actually feel it, and the response is that, whoa, I can now bend like a pretzel where I couldn't yesterday. And so it's really important that they find out, or that around these risk times that they're conscious that they don't bend themselves out like a pretzel further than their usual range of movement. They might be able to do it, but it doesn't mean they kind of should do it. Because we don't want to overstretch the connective tissue and the ligaments that are between the joints, in particular the joints at the front of the pelvis. So and footballers can often have like a groin strain where that joint is stretched out, and I don't know, it's kind of the same thing. It can happen in pregnancy and it's actually really, really painful. Yeah. And its real term is called pubis symphysis diastasis. So it pulls apart at the pubis symphysis. Now, if this overstretches and you got nothing but a growing baby, bearing down on it, getting heavier and heavier. This, for some women, can actually cause them a lot of pain to the point that they can't walk. So it's really important to protect the pelvis.
Yeah.
So I have a little saying that helps people to take this on board, and I share it with my clients.
Okay.
I tell them not to be a Britney Spears, not to do a Britney Spears, and that means, imagine you've got a tight mini skirt on and no knickers. So you don't want to be like throwing your leg out, getting out of the car and overstretching that pelvis, but kind of keeping the knees together, moving together. The thing is with pubis symphysis diastasis, which can be, very painful, is on those first niggles, get yourself to a women's health physiotherapist that specialises in this and get the support and help you need.
Yeah.
So that does have implications for training. We want to be like really careful with pelvis, keeping it, in a steady, supported space. So what I'm saying is kind of now's not the time to put one leg on a Bosu board or, do some kind of, unstable exercises. That's the word I'm trying to think of. So having that kind of stable platform to work on.
Are lunges generally okay, or is that sort of even a border?
Well, we lunge through everyday life.
Yeah.
We lunge to pick up our stuff. So it is all about, we can't avoid lunging, but we can teach people how to lunge properly. So really concentrate on building the glute muscles. So the glute muscles are going to be really important for being labour fit, and also the main thing there is it's really effective with keeping the pelvic floor really strong too by having really strong glute muscles.
So get that pelvic area, the better, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We really want to, have the pelvis, all the muscles around the pelvis working functionally really well. So that would bring me on to pelvic floor, making sure that we minimise risk to pelvic floor. So a way in which you can do this is, a couple of ways. If you're training and doing weights, take the weight off the pelvis, use sitting on a Swiss ball, for example, or try some other exercises that can, because obviously standing with weights, there's a lot of downward pressure on the pelvic floor. So we need to be, and there's extra pressure with the baby as well. So we really want to be mindful of that. Of course, weight training is really, really important. Really, to have strong upper arms, upper body for the postnatal period. But thinking about, are you getting your clients to do all this standing, and can they do some of it sitting as well?
Yeah.
So the other kind of key take home with pelvic floor is encouraging your client to exhale on exertion. It can release a lot of intra-abdominal pressure as well. And then making sure that you're cueing pelvic floor as well. And if you don't know how to do pelvic floor exercises, or you're not sure if you're doing them right, because if you're not doing them right, you won't be able to cue them, find a women's health physiotherapist. Some of them have real-time ultrasound that you can see your pelvic floor contract.
Wow.
So, and men do have pelvic floors too.
True.
So I think that's the key kind of points around being careful. Certainly if you get a client starting in their third trimester, which can happen as well, like because they've finally gone on maternity leave, so now they're going to get labour fit and achieve all these fitness goals, their start position is really, really important. Where are they, at what point are they starting at? And the third trimester is, it's not the time for breaking world records. It's about, keeping them active, because it's great for mental health, but it's great for all our body, muscles to be moving. But now's not the time to, do full-on strength training.
Okay. So what about, on that note, what are some good sort of just general safe activities or exercises that you could give someone when they're pregnant? Obviously, everyone's different. Everyone's at completely different stages. But let's say you got someone like that. They're in their third trimester. They haven't trained with you before. They're not a regular exerciser. What are just some really safe activities or things like that we might be able to recommend for them?
Yeah, sure. So just with that, I do hope that everyone who is listening, they have an assessment form. So even before any client starts with you, it's really, really important. And like I said at the start of every session, you're still going to be asking them, how are you feeling? Has anything changed from last time I saw you? Is there any pain? And it's not in your scope of practice to diagnose or fix. So anything that you're unsure of, you must refer out. It's a really important thing. And I can't stress that highly enough.
What would be some of those things? Would there be any common things where if a client said, hey, look, I've started to, feel dizzy or feel fatigued or gnawed? What are some of those maybe warning signs that if we heard them, we would say, hey, look, you should probably go and see someone?
So if they haven't felt their baby move, we're obviously talking about, when you can feel your baby move, and that is in those last months. Are they feeling their baby move all the time? Is there any unusual bleeding or spotting? Anything that they feel, they're going to be first to know. But you're talking, and it might come up. In the conversation as the coach, they might know you really, really well and share stuff with you, and you have to be listening to that and say, well, I don't know, I don't know why you're doing that. It's not my area. So, but I really think you should see someone. So you asked me about some great exercises in that third trimester. So some really beautiful exercises are sitting on a Swiss ball and doing some really lovely, making some circles with the hips, and tilting backwards and forwards, side to side, and going around the clock face. So that will release a lot of pressure in the lower back and feel really good, because a lot of women with the lordosis of pregnancy might have lower back, niggles or pain. Definitely breathing. And when I talk about breathing, diaphragmatic breathing, so breathing deep into I call it imagining you've got an umbrella under your ribcage, so you're opening up all the way around. It's going to be really great to help with labour as well. And also, there's a lot of anxiety around pregnancy, and especially leading up to the birth, they might have anxiety about what's this birth going to be like. So having these breathing strategies are really, really good, not only physically but mentally as well.
Yeah.
So anything on the Swiss ball, obviously you want to be careful about lying clients on their back. It's still recognised currently that this is not best practice. There's lots of discussion around this, and you might have clients who come to you and say, oh my goodness, I woke up in the night and I was lying on my back. Some women say that they sleep their whole pregnancy on their back. So, but if your body will probably get you to move, but we don't want to be, that's kind of crossing the line again of our scope of practice. We want to be following best practice. Alternatively, 4-point kneeling work is really nice as well, and having great neutral spine and 4-point kneeling, and drawing the baby up close and then allowing it to drop down. So it's almost like what's a transverse abdominis muscle exercise, but using the baby as the weight, so to speak. So that's a really lovely exercise as well.
Do you move?
Sorry?
Just staying on all fours there, or do you move one hand or one leg, or either way?
Sure. I would definitely encourage, the arms as well. The legs obviously have to be careful if there's any pelvic it used to be called pelvic instability, but we don't use that word anymore. It's more termed pelvic girdle pain now. So if there's any pelvic girdle pain, you know, we want to be keeping that pelvis as stable as possible and seeking help.
Okay.
Encouraging them to seek help as well. So, but my only thing to be aware of during any prone exercises like 4-point kneeling is if they have the diastasis happening. So that's in the late stages of pregnancy. The linea albia, which joins the rectus abdominis, splits. It's very common. It happens between 60 and 70% of pregnancies. So we can't really assess it while they're pregnant, because having fingers in your pregnant tummy doesn't feel right, and it's not our place to be doing that. But if they're in a prone position and you see the tummy wedging down like a point through, it'll come up. I call it Toblerone tummy. So anything where they crunch over and you see like a triangular, you know, Toblerone coming through, then we don't want to be encouraging that, right? You know, pushing and pulling that apart. So I wouldn't have any prone exercises during this time. You know, and it does, the exercise repertoire does get a little narrow. So it does take some creativity and constantly thinking on your feet and asking, and if you don't know, asking someone else as well.
Yeah. But it's always good to have a few go-tos, isn't it? You know, if you've got some really good exercises, you've got a Swiss ball there, you know, can come up with some things. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go from there, Mish, and let's talk a little bit, because a lot of people watching this are probably going to be outdoor trainers and boot camp trainers and that sort of things. Let's just talk really briefly about if you were training a pregnant woman outdoors. Is there any specific things you need to be aware of, or even with outdoor equipment, is there any specific, you know, equipment to stay away from, or what's your sort of general opinion on outdoor training for pregnant women?
Sure. Well, you know, being outdoors is just lovely.
Yep.
It's great. It's great for the spirit. It's great for the soul. So, you know, we can't underestimate the value of being outside. It's just lovely. Yeah. However, when you are pregnant, you have a higher body temperature. So you have to be really, really conscious that, you know, that you're not training in the heat, and that there's plenty of water. So it might be where other people love a good, hot, sweaty workout. For your pregnant client, it's just like, do you know what? Today's not you know, I want to minimize any risk factors because I care about you, I care about your baby, I care about your pregnancy. So as for equipment, again, I try not to blanket any exercise or any equipment as this is good and this is bad, because we're all so different, and everyone's pregnancies are different as well. But again, going back to those kind of key aspects, caring for your pelvic floor and not overloading it. It is a muscle that is taking a brunt of the weight during the pregnancy and through birth and postnatally. So we absolutely must care for it. The statistics say that if you are experiencing incontinence during pregnancy, then you are, you know, incredibly likely to continue experiencing incontinence. So asking your clients, are they leaking? Are they leaking? You know, is there incontinence? Then that definitely needs to be addressed. And it can be addressed and it can improve. So definitely pelvic floor considerations. Some other really lovely pregnancy exercises is with not only a growing belly but growing breasts. You know, there can be a lot of folding forward. So some, you know, lovely rowing with therabands where you're opening up through the chest and you know, strengthening the back muscles and getting the scapula to roll back. They'll really love that sort of thing too. And again, a Swiss ball, remembering about how long you're keeping your client standing. Can you do some of it sitting? Swiss ball. So it's all about being creative, which fitness professionals are great at. regressing and progressing and thinking, exercise. Do you know what I mean? It's you've got a whole lot of ideas that already.
That's it. And yeah, so from what I take out of that is, no dramas training someone outdoors, as long as you're careful. Pretty much the temperature is a big thing there. So if it's a super hot day, as you said, all right, hey, it's probably not the time to train. Or even if it's a medium temperature day, all right, hey, let's find the shade anyway. Let's not take any risks, Let's bring heaps of weight anyway. Let's not take any risks. Hey, let's train over there where there's a seat anyway, so we can move from standing to sitting. So there's, that's definitely an option. What about, Mish? We'll finish off with this. What about a group setting? And we'll do it in two different ways. So let's say, for example, there was like a boot camp. Let's say a trainer's watching this and they're running like a 12-week boot camp. And let's say halfway in, a woman came up to the trainer and say, hey, look, I've just found out I'm pregnant. It's early days, but, can I keep training? And we obviously do what we said before, and, do obviously the pre-screening and make sure you're qualified and get the clearance. I'll just get your quick opinion on that side of things, if they're still able to, fit in that group boot camp environment. And then maybe the other way as well. Say you're running just a regular class at the gym, and let's say a pregnant woman walks in and you don't know her. We'll start with both of those. Let's start with the gym first. What would you do there if you're running, say, a circuit class at a gym and a pregnant woman comes in? Usually as group instructors, most people sort of ask at the start, hey, does anyone have any injuries? Is anyone pregnant? And let's say, you've got everyone warming up and then someone comes over to you and they're like, yeah, hey, Mish, look, actually I'm pregnant. What would you do in that situation? Is she still able to train in that group environment? Should you ask some quick questions there? What's your sort of quick take on that?
Yeah, I know what the reality is like in the gym, and this is where it gets really tricky because legally she needs to fill out a new form. She needs to have the okay from her doctor, and that's if you go against that, then you're opening yourself up to litigation, basically. So, but it's crazy at the gym, and you put into a position, and then the other part of that equation is we know that some people, training is the most important thing in their life, and so if you don't train them, they will find someone who cares even less. So, it's not, as you appreciate, it's not as simple as and cut and dried. It's complicated. But I would encourage them to take it easy. When I've worked in that situation where I've had a woman come up and the most difficult thing is in a group environment is you get pulled into what the group is doing.
Yeah.
So, I would feel more comfortable with them coming when I had pre-prepared a program that was specific for them because their needs are different, as opposed to, modifying on the fly, which can be really hard. I mean, you've got how many people demanding of you that the people who are expecting your coaching services are going to feel like they're left out as well. Yeah. So, I would explain all that and say, that you want them to train, but you need to have prior knowledge of where they're at, any symptoms, and then the ability for you to make something specific for them that's going to really, and I would package it up with, it's going to help you. We're going to do exercises that will prepare you for labour, prepare you for recovery, prepare you for your job postnatally. Yeah. So, look, it's a tricky question, outside and inside, but I think the more you stick to your guns about demanding, the proper protocol, then you're not only going to keep yourself safe, but you're going to keep your clients safe, and you're going to be respected in the industry as well.
Well, a couple, just hearing you talk then, I was putting some things through my head. I'll run through just something I put through my head then and let me know your sort of opinion. So
sure.
would something like this make sense then if someone did say that situation? You'd probably try and get them on. This is what I try and do anyway. Like, I'll get everyone warmed up first. Hey, if anyone's got any injuries or is pregnant, come up and chat to me now on the side. So you don't want to single someone out in front of everyone, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And if someone comes up and says they're pregnant, you do the usual. Okay, cool. Hey, just double checking. Have you filled out a pre-screen form since you've been pregnant? And if they say no there, then okay, hey, look, it's probably a good idea. Go downstairs, fill one out now, before you come into the class. And then from there, the clearance as well. Okay, cool. So you filled out that form. That's cool. Just double checking. Have you gone to your GP or your allied health professional and gotten clear? If they say yes, okay, cool. Your next step. If they say no, well, hey, look, I probably, me in my role, I don't recommend that you actually do this if you haven't got clearance. That would be unsafe for me. And then the third thing from there is probably, are you qualified? If you don't have that qualification, then you should probably tell them, hey, look, I'm actually not qualified to train pregnant women. So, I can't really adjust this like it would be for you. So I probably don't recommend you do this class. So if you can knock sort of those three questions out there, I think a few things going on done. It's obviously not ideal. It's not perfect, but you've done your job. Okay, cool. Have they filled out a form? Okay. Have they got clearance? Okay, I'm qualified. Okay, now I can probably get them in there and modify things, but still mention to them, hey, this is tailored for apparently, or for people that aren't pregnant. So, it may not be the best for you. If you want something specific to you, come and speak to me after, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Would that sort of, keep it as safe as possible without overstepping the mark?
Jono, that would be such a great process. I think that would, be really, really good to follow that process every time. And then after that, every time, if they've ticked all those boxes and you've ticked that box of having qualifications yourself, then at the start of every session again, it would be like, okay, so are there any changes this week? Is there any pain? Is there anything I need to be aware of? Are you feeling like and you're thinking yourself around the 8 to 12 week mark, because you're going to ask them every week, what week are you in your pregnancy? Around that 16 to 20 weeks, are you feeling like you've got a little bit more give than your muscles? Okay, well, I want you to really think about using the muscles rather than using your joints and your ligaments when we do our exercises. So kind of checking in with that as well. But then, in a group situation, it might be taking out the exercises that are not appropriate, but putting a TheraBand there, having some lovely, and I think the key is with anything, if you can explain why you have that exercise, then that exercise is okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you can say, I'm doing this because of, tight pecs and, weak upper back, then it works. Doing an exercise because you saw it on the internet yesterday, probably doesn't pass that test. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, hey, Mish, I think we're pretty much at our time limit there. But is there anything you'd like to add that I didn't ask you, or anything you'd like to add on to that?
Sure. There is one thing. As you know, I host the Women's Health and Fitness Summit, and part of that is because of my passion about being involved with allied health. So if you haven't got a relationship with an allied health professional, particularly a women's health physiotherapist, and you train women, regardless of whether they're pregnant or postnatal or menopausal, I think having a good screening tool that asks about pelvic health and a good relationship with a women's health physiotherapist, what that does for your credibility is enormous. And every time you send a woman to the women's health physiotherapist, if they're coming up with some symptoms or pain or dysfunction in any way, and you follow that up with a telephone call, you're going to learn a lot.
100%.
And so, it's a really great thing to do, is to build that relationship with allied health. I can't stress that enough. And when I mean allied health, a women's health physiotherapist, and some people don't realize that a women's health physiotherapist is a postgraduate course that, or sometimes it's also called a pelvic health physiotherapist, so there's different names, but it's not just a normal physio, someone who's done a postgraduate course, particularly in pelvic health. Yeah. So that's a really important thing, but yeah, I hope it's been useful.
Yeah, I think it was awesome. I just wanted to add to that point a bit as well with the allied health. I think it's so important on so many different levels. Like, let's say if you've got a woman in a situation and you just say, yeah, go and see a physio. It's just nowhere near as professional as, hey, I know a women's physio clinic or women's physio specialist. Her name is Mish. Go and see her here. That's just 100 times more professional. And it's also going to work better for you as the trainer if you're sending all your clientele to the one person who's giving the one advice, as opposed to, oh, my physio said this, oh, my doctor said this, oh, my chiro said this, You're sending everyone to that one place there. You're getting the one message. And then, as you said, if you can follow it up and chat to that physio, hey, look, I know I sent Mish to see you. What should I do? What shouldn't I do? What do you recommend? You're going to learn more. You're just going to get better and better at your craft. And then I think also, even just from a business sense, if you can have a relationship with that women's physio and they see, oh, wow, this person actually cares about their clients, oh, this person's sending me clients, this person's following up, this person's listening, this person understands. Maybe if that person has a client that needs a trainer, they might send them your way.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to be clear, I am not a women's health physio or a pelvic health physio. I'm just someone who's super passionate about women's health.
Awesome. Well, let's finish this up, Mish. So just a couple of things. Maybe if you can just, if someone wants to contact you, where do they find you? Maybe give a quick, just when your next women's health summit is, or maybe just mention your course in training pregnant and post women, and then we'll finish up.
Sure. So I do have a website, mishvet.com.au. I blog. In fact, there's a whole heap of resources. If you go and search in my blog on the right-hand side, there's title categories. So if you look under pelvic floor prolapse, there's lots of information there that can help you. And also you might want to direct, I write a lot to women as well, so you might want to direct your clients to that resource as well. And I also sell from that website the course which you have as well, the pregnancy postnatal online course for trainers with 1cc.
Yep, cool. And that's it. That will cover you, right, if you want to then train pregnant women?
That's right, and it's just actually being updated at the moment, so which is good. It's really important that courses are updated because the research is changing all the time. So I've had some really great eyes on it, making sure that I'm delivering the best possible education. Very important to me as well. And then if you are look out for me wearing my curves, my curves hat on. I'm super excited about the world of curves and what, watch the space. There's going to be some exciting things happening here.
Are you still doing the Women's Health Summit? Is that still going on?
The Women's Health and Fitness Summit is a little bit up in the air at the moment because I'm working full time at Curves. So I'm hoping it will happen. It might have a hiatus for a year. It's been 4 years running. It takes a huge amount of work, but it is so important. There's nothing else like it in order to and contrary to popular belief, it's not just for women. It's anyone who works with women, and it's a place where allied health go as well. Is a really growing trend and better relationship between physio and fitness, I believe, happening. I've seen that happen, and the Women's Health and Fitness Summit has been, a big part of that progression, which is just fantastic. Something I'm super passionate about.
Well, I love the point about men going as well, because I read one of your blogs once, and I mentioned this to you, where Mish wrote a blog, and it said something about, if you're a trainer, and I'm not going to stereotype, but it probably would be more a guy trainer that would say this, where if, someone comes up and they're like, oh, look, I've actually hurt my knee. the trainer will say, yeah, no dramas, I'll work around it, make sure we do nothing that aggravates it. But if a woman came up and said to the trainer, hey, look, I'm having some pelvic floor issues, the trainer could very easily say, yep, sorry, not my thing, don't know how to help you. And that's just not fair, and it's borderline sexist, So I think that if you're a man, it's probably more important that you learn these sort of skills, because you're behind the 8 ball anyway, because you're not a woman.
Agreed, but also, this information is just not inherent because we're women. We have to be taught it, and it's currently submitted from our qualifications. That blog has been read by over 30,000 people, and then Mamma Mia picked it up, and it was shared nearly 700 times. So it really struck a chord. With a lot of people. So I think that the general public are being a lot more clued up about what their rights are. Women are, and I'm really noticing it at the moment, are being intolerant of people who don't bother to learn and cater to them. And try and fit, as I did at FitX, square pegs into round holes.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks very much for your time. I think we've even gone a bit over, so thank you so much for that. I'll get you a recording of this as well, so you can obviously follow it up, and I'll put your details below as well. So if anyone wants to contact you, they can get in touch with you.
Okay. Thanks, Jono. It's great.
All right. Thanks, Mish. We'll chat soon.
We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.